Hello everyone and welcome back to the GeekWave. This is the low budget show. It's the show so low it has no budget. Unlike the movie studio we're going to be talking about today, or the animation house, whatever you want to call it, it's a division of Universal because they're in all of the theme parks now. Which why wouldn't they be? The Minions. It's Illumination. I wanted to do an episode talking about Despicable Me 4. A movie that I was excited to see. And then over this weekend, I got a chance to see Kill, which was a more interesting movie that I wanted to see more. And then I went to Maxine, and that put me in a bad mood. So I just said, I'll go to Despicable Me 4 on a cheap Tuesday, and we'll get to it eventually. But let's talk about the rest of, Illumination's career. Movies that are fine. Majority of them are fine. Yeah, it's awesome. And we do have a little bit of news to talk about, not a whole lot because we are again ramping up towards San Diego Comic-Con, and I'm sure a lot of the big studios and shit are going to be waiting to talk about some stuff there. Maybe not though. Maybe not. I feel like the push for like big Hollywood stuff isn't what it used to be over there. But there's probably going to be some good comic book stuff we could talk about. There was one thing that leaked in the comic book community recently that is connected to what's going to be coming up at San Diego Comic-Con about a certain Batman book and maybe a new initiative being pushed at a certain comic book company called DC. I don't want to speculate on that yet. I think we'll get to that eventually. I'll just say, interesting. Very interesting choices being made, and that's not always a good thing, but that's also not always a bad thing. I guess time will tell what that actually comes to be. But we have a little bit of news, a couple of trailers, 2 trailers actually that I think are very exciting. And then the announcement that we'll start with, which is the Arkham Asylum TV show that Matt Reeves was developing. Originally, we all thought it was going to be part of his Batman universe. Then James Gunn said, well, actually, it's going to be developed here at the DCU. That's no longer moving forward. Which makes sense. Other commitments are probably keeping Reeves from working on that. You do not have an established Batman yet, so do you want to establish the villains or the hero first? That's kind of interesting. I know there's been like huge rumors about like the Rogues getting a TV show at the DCU, which I would love. I actually have a pitch for a Rogues TV show. I think it's awesome. I guess it could work for the villains of Batman. Like that wouldn't be the worst thing to happen. But with all the uncertainty, I feel like there's just too much going on with like the Penguin and the Batman to really try to do another version of these characters. So maybe it's for the best we don't move forward with that. I'm not going to lose sleep over it. I'm not upset it's not happening. It's not like, oh man, they canceled a really cool project. If anything, this one was in like development hell for a while because it was started off as like a Gotham PD show. And it's like, what if we just made like a show about the bad guys or Arkham Asylum at large? It sounds like they didn't know what they wanted to do. And when you don't know what you want to do, you're not going to get me excited for your project. You need to have a clear creative vision. Like Joseph Kosinski making a movie about Formula One. And that's the next piece of news we can talk about, which is this new project from Joseph Kosinski, as I just said, called F1. Brad Pitt stars in this highly expensive, a monumentally expensive movie that is going to be playing in IMAX, which makes sense. It's F1. It got a trailer coming June of next year, which is kind of exciting. Cool. I feel like all the big projects we know about coming out next year are kind of just like brands we are aware of. So this is good counter programming. They clearly want this to have the same push as a Top Gun Maverick. You got the director in, what if Top Gun but racing? I feel like we can't do that the same, but Brad Pitt is kind of a Tom Cruise level guy, so I guess it's the closest we could come. But we also don't have like the connection to Brad Pitt and racing, or at least I don't think we do. Maybe there's like some history of him liking cars. But racing movies, just movies about like real life cars and shit, they do really well. Ford versus Ferrari, people watched that. Like it was good and people watched it. And Ferrari, people really enjoyed. I think Ferrari's a great movie. So F1, what's the history of that? What's going on with that? It looks very cinematic and it looks very expensive. So I'll give it that. At least it feels like you had money behind it. like $300 million to make this weird movie for nobody. But sometimes that's the best kind of movie. Sometimes you can just spend a lot of money to make a movie about racing a car, and the audience will show up. But the thing is, I don't know if Brad Pitt has escaped his like tortured history the way Tom Cruise has. Tom Cruise has worked really hard in his later years to escape the image that he got himself into. When he was with Katie Holmes, with the Scientology, with Nicole Kidman, he got out of that. And he's like a weird guy just vibing over there. I don't think Brad Pitt has escaped that. You know, Babylon did not do super well. I guess the telling card is going to be if Wolves does well, which is the John Watts movie with Brad Pitt and George Clooney. If that does well, or, you know, just like reasonably well, I guess the public's like, yeah, but we still like Pitt. Because when was the last George Clooney movie to do good in cinemas? I don't remember. I guess Ticket to Paradise did pretty good considering like when it came out. But is that more him? Or is it like the, you know, the two-hander that is him and Roberts? I don't know. Young people don't like George Clooney, I guess is what I'm saying. I don't think young people like Brad Pitt. But old people are going to movies, so maybe it'll do good. I think it looks fine. I know people that like racing and like these types of movies. I like these types of movies, so I'm not against it. I'm just cautiously optimistic that this could be interesting. And in a summer that's going to be stacked with like Fantastic Four and Superman, yeah, give me a little car movie. I like that. And you just know that sound is going to be legendary. Like the sound design and sound mixing, ooh, it's going to be good. I like that. But speaking of things I don't like, we got a trailer for this new television series premiering in September called Agatha All Along. That's the official title. This was announced like the day after Agatha debuted on WandaVision, which was 3 years ago at this point. Catherine Hahn's character will return. Who cares? It's like, I'm fine of giving characters a chance to shine on television and doing other stuff. Echo found its audience. It was like one of the highest shows that Marvel made on there. She-Hulk was so good. Like, I'm fine with them trying stuff. But Agatha Harkness is a huge stretch for me. You cannot tell me anybody pitched that. That is something that someone said, oh, we could just do like something with Agatha and make it kind of gay. Like Patti LuPone could be in it. Joe Locke could be in it. Aubrey Plaza could be in it. You know, gay people. And make a thing for people that's kind of Halloween related. Maybe it should have been one of your like special presentations that you don't do anymore. That would have been cool. But no, instead we got a TV show where Agatha's building a coven or something. I don't know. I don't know if this is going to be anything, but at the end of the day, it's doing its job of just existing in a place where content is limited in its existence. So Marvel continues its hot streak of just mediocrity. I don't know if they'll reveal anything for this show at San Diego. I feel like that's going to be what D23 is for because that's Disney exclusive stuff. But we'll see. Marvel's coming to San Diego. We know that. Probably Fantastic Four and Thunderbolts and stuff. But I don't know. We're supposed to be getting a trailer for Brave New World soon. If you care. I'm sure you don't. That movie's like $330 million in the tank because they reshot it a bunch of times. Probably to the point where it's not a real movie anymore. And they may have to get rid of like an Israeli superhero. Or they're just going to prominently display her and people are going to be like, this is a choice you made, Marvel. Which might put you deeper into the dark with a lot of people. I don't know. Either way, cool. Good for you. Agatha coming September. I don't think I'm going to cover it. I cannot imagine what that's going to do for me. Not much. You know, there's not much I want to talk about that's like big stuff right now. I don't want to talk about The Bear. I have nothing to really say about The Bear. House of the Dragon, I'm so far behind on, I don't know if I'm even going to cover it. The Acolyte has been good, but do I want to cover The Acolyte? I don't know. After Interview with the Vampire ended, I just kind of lost momentum for all the shows I'm watching currently. So, I don't know. Futurama comes back soon too. That's cool. Lady of the Lake comes back, or comes on soon, the Natalie Portman show on Apple, so I'll talk about that, but not Agatha. All right, let's take a quick break. When we come back, let's talk about the Minions and then other stuff too. You know what's crazy is I'm looking at the list of movies made by Illumination, and I don't really like many of them except for like a couple. There's like three. I think it's just Despicable Me. I just like the Despicable Me franchise. All right, so yeah, I wanted to talk about Illumination, one of the few animation companies that are still operating. You know, Blue Sky shut down because Disney's like, we can't have Ice Age existing under something that's not our umbrella. Screw that. But, you know, they release stuff with Universal and they make movies, good, fine, whatever movies. Movies that are people like, you know, two of them that people like. They really started doing existing IP now. And I guess they still make original movies. I don't know. Why are we talking about Illumination? Who watching this video gives a shit about any of these movies except me? I think this is a really good track record of just mediocrity. Where you're like, yeah, you could probably give every single movie on this list without even seeing anything but the trailer a solid 5 out of 10. I think there's some hidden gems in there. And by hidden gems, I mean some of the biggest movies of the year that they came out. I think they're good. And yes, it's just Despicable Me 3, one of the best movies ever made. But the rest of it is fine. Like the first Despicable Me movie is fine. I watched it the other day. It's fine. It looks fine. It's how you like debut as an animation studio. You're like, guess what, folks? What if Steve Carell gave us an iconic voice? And then we had an actual theme song in place. And what if we created a bunch of little yellow freaks that are going to take over popular culture in a way we have never seen before? I think it's a good movie. It's very strong. It's got some good energy. But it definitely started the trend of like, oh yeah, so people just like the Minions. Why don't we just make the Three Stooges? But they're like disgusting animated hybrid fuck-ups. I don't know. That's what it feels like. And I get it, you know? People say they don't like silent films or they don't like old movies or old cartoons, but then you see the Minions and you're like, this is where the inspiration is coming from. They're doing an Abbott and Costello bit. Like the end of Despicable Me, the movie, has like a sequence where they're seeing who can reach their arm out the farthest. That is a stupid bit that you'd see in an old cartoon from the 30s or 40s. It's so exhausting. But for an animation studio's debut movie, it looks pretty good. It is dated for 2010, but everything in 2010 looked that kind of shiny. So it's not terrible. It does fine. But then they go into live action a little bit with a little movie called Hop, which I have seen. I have seen Hop. It is a movie that is Russell Brand in this one? Oh yeah, he's Hop, isn't he? I've seen it, but I couldn't for the life of you tell me what happens in it. It's James Marsden talking to like the Easter Bunny or the Easter Bunny's friend or something. I don't know. It's kind of a stupid joke. What is the plot of this movie again? On Easter Island, a young rabbit named E.B. is intended to succeed his father as the Easter Bunny. Ignoring his father's orders, E.B. runs away to Hollywood to pursue his dream of becoming a drummer. Why would you go to Hollywood to be a drummer? That's silly. But again, Russell Brand is in 2 of these early Despicable, or not even, like Illumination movies, I mean. Russell Brand's in 2 of them. I guess they really liked him. Oh man, that's off to a rough start. But it comes back around the next year when we do a Dr. Seuss thing, which is kind of cool. It was Roald Dahl that sold all of their stuff to Netflix. Who owns the Dr. Seuss library now? Because I think, like, the Lorax is one of the better Dr. Seuss adaptations. I don't know too many of them. I think Netflix tried their attempt at a couple of them. I do not like the Cat in the Hat movie. I've never been a fan of Mike Myers. I find it exhausting. This movie's just kind of like, yeah, it's funny, it's musical. Danny DeVito's the thing you want him to be. It's just a solid film with, like, actual intent behind it. And it's perfect. Like, the Dr. Seuss characters, they just lend themselves so well to especially like the wiry, rubbery feel of like this type of like production. It's not as like rubbery as like DreamWorks can get sometimes, but I just think like, yeah, there's like a certain aesthetic that lends itself well to the Dr. Seuss universe. And something like Despicable Me, you watch that and you're like, yeah, I could see like how you would get to like the green eggs and ham people from there. One fish, two fish, red fish, blue fish, and all that. And I see that. I get it. This studio's later going to make a Grinch movie or something. So that's cool. Anybody see that Grinch movie? We'll get there in a minute, because the one after the Lorax, which is a good movie, I will stand by that. It's probably a good movie. I haven't seen it since it came out. I like it. Lorax. Was he at Universal Parks one time? Probably. Now it's just Minions. There's like 100 Minions you could see at any given moment in history. There's just like a million Minions. Because Despicable Me 2 then like changes the game. It starts being a movie about the Minions. The Minions just exist now in there. And then they get their own spin-off in the next movie. And you're like, yeah, you really sold yourself on what your brand is going to be. The opening title card for Illumination is going to have a Minion in it. And that's fine. I'm not against the Minions. I'm not. I know some people think they're annoying or they're like boomer humor on Facebook and shit. But I think they're funny. And they're silly. And I respect Illumination for being like, we're not supporting AI, we're supporting real artists. And I think that's fun. But this movie, don't they get like evil purple minions that show up? And then like Margot falls in love with like a boy, and like his dad's like a crime boss, and Gru has to pretend to be a good guy, but then he actually becomes a good guy. It's fun. They abandoned the premise of Gru being evil really quick, and I get it. Like that gets you so far. It gets you pretty far. But I don't know. It does a really good job of like establishing like a world that has super villains and super spies in it. I'll give it credit for that. I'm all in on Despicable Me, by the way. Like, I think those movies are fun. They do something I really love, which takes like a familiar concept and just spins it enough for both like a kid aesthetic and if you're a fan of the genre, which I am a fan. I love comic books. You're riffing on supervillains who do all this crazy stuff. How do they get funding? How do they do these things? You're riffing on it enough where it's not like a joke about the comic book itself. It's just more like we love this shit, you know? We're to talk about this shit and have fun with it. And that really starts to happen in the sequel, where we're introduced to more colorful villains and like different formulas and stuff. And it's like it becomes like a weird parody of like a James Bond thing. And it just works so much better than you think it would. That's always cool to see. I love the evolution of something like that to actually like becoming something sustainable. And it's a problem I have with other like things that are homaging stuff, where the joke stops being that the people who are making this like it and they just feel like resentful of the material. It's kind of why I fell off The Boys. Like, I don't feel that show is no longer like riffing on the comic book industry or like the comic book movie industry, and it's just become like, wasn't it funny that like a Spider-Man character like says Zendaya? And I'm like, no, it's not. There's no joke there. That's not funny to anybody who like cares about these characters or this world. But Despicable Me, something like Megamind 2, which is another DreamWorks movie, it really gets it. You're like, you see Lex Luthor as like this failed character, and then like suddenly Superman lets him win. And that's an interesting premise. And I think the same thing can be said for like Despicable Me, where it's suddenly, you know, who's like a good comparison that you could make? Just like some evil genius in a comic book, or Blofeld even has to become good. And he does, and it works for him. It's a good setup. And then what about a Minions prequel? How did the Minions exist? Where do they come from? They follow the most evil people in history. What does that look like? Looks like $1 billion franchise, if you ask me. I don't really have anything bad to say. I think this is a very solid movie. It's funny. These characters are funny. They look stupid, and they work, and it gets the job done. I have no problem with the Minions. They're not as good as the Despicable Me movies, but I have no problem with them at all. They're pretty damn cool. Now, a franchise I don't care for, because again, you see Hop and Despicable Me have a controversial figure in their ranks as a voice actor. Well, The Secret Life of Pets started off with Louis C.K., who I know some people like him again, but I don't. And I don't like this movie. I think it's stupid and annoying. It's like, what if your dog hated another dog and they got lost and they had to do dog stuff? I'm like, shut up. I've seen this better when it was called Babe, Pig in the City. And it was done by George Miller, a freak. I don't need this shit. I don't need Kevin Hart as a rabbit being annoying and stupid and pissing me off. I don't need that shit. It's annoying and it doesn't work. And this movie's exhausting. It's not exciting. The characters aren't interesting to look at. They're just stupid, annoying dogs and cats and ugly animals. And it has nothing going for it. The jokes aren't that funny. The concept is, paper thin. There's nothing to it. There's no substance. It doesn't get anywhere. And this becomes a problem that Illumination has with its animal-based movies. They just start to suck. Because then, in the same year, we get a little movie called Sing, which is what if, what was it, the koala? I've never seen it. I'm not going to see it. Matthew McConaughey's the koala, I think. And he's like, what if I held a competition and everyone could sing and then they win a thing at the end? And what if Taron Egerton, before signing on to do an Elton John movie, showed the entire world that he can sing an Elton John song? And he does. And then this movie ends with Taron Egerton at a piano singing I'm Still Standing. And then Rocket Man ends with Taron Egerton singing I'm Still Standing. And what if that was just a weird coincidence? Or not, because maybe it happened because of this. Very weird. This is just what if we could license songs and then have animals sing them, or famous people can voice them. Isn't that fun? Isn't that fun? I guess so. Seth MacFarlane was a rat or something, or a mouse, and he sang Frank Sinatra. Ooh, clever. I'm sorry. It's exhausting. A super exhausting franchise that I don't care for. And same for The Secret Life of Pets. I know we talked about it already. I don't like either of them. And I don't like that they both got a sequel. What do you do in a sequel to either of those movies? The dogs get out again? I saw the sequel. I can't remember what happens. Oh, right. I know we're coming up to The Secret Life of Pets 2, but let's get to it right now. Don't they get superpowers or something stupid? Like the rabbit thinks he's a superhero or some stupid shit because it was right at the time that Marvel was still on top of the world, and it takes a long time to animate something, so it would be perfect to make a joke or something. Ugh, exhausting. Stupid movie. I don't like The Secret Life of Pets, and I don't like Sing, but I do like this next movie. Perhaps my favorite movie from Illumination. You know what? It is. It is my favorite movie from Illumination. The only one that would come close is Despicable Me 2, but Despicable Me 3. They nailed it. They figured it out. Gru is silly. He's not going to work well with other people because he's going to look like an idiot and an asshole and be dumb, always be the butt of the joke. He's going to have a brother who's cooler than him. And then what if the Minions have a subplot or something? I don't care. But it gives us the best villain in the one that Trey Parker voices, where it's what if the 80s were a bad guy? What if Retro was a bad guy? And I'm yeah, that's awesome. Balthazar Brat. He's a super villain and former child star who grows up to become obsessed with the character that he played in the 1980s and is bent on world domination. Awesome. It's awesome. It's awesome. I'm sorry. This movie's awesome. It's funny. It's clever. It has a real story to tell. It knows what it's doing. It's making fun of all of these people. Some really cool ways. I love it. It just is yeah, I guess our audience is people who like the 80s but are young and don't think it's weird that we keep talking about it. That's kind of cool. I appreciate that. Way to do something interesting. It's great. It's just a fantastic little movie that nobody talks about anymore because then we got the Grinch, and who the fuck cares about the Grinch? I'm sorry. Why do we keep coming back to the Grinch? I feel like this character doesn't work anymore. Like, it's just so lame because every child is just angry and hates everything and then learns to grow out of it. So I guess maybe that's why we do it. It's just so stupid. I don't like it. This one was Benedict Cumberbatch. He did fine. He did like a voice or something. And you're like, just hire a better voice actor then. It looked fine. Again, the Dr. Seuss aesthetic does work for Illumination. But this Grinch was very specific. And you had the perfect one already with Jim Carrey. A movie I don't like, by the way. I'm not a fan of the Grinch. I'm not a fan of Jim Carrey. And I don't care for that movie. But better than this shit. I know we're talking about kids' movies with such disdain, but I have to. That's what I do. It's what I'm here for. The Secret Life of Pets 2, we talked about it already. Stupid movie. Sing 2 is the pandemic release, right? Because that was 2021. I couldn't tell you what happened in that movie. I never saw it because I don't care for this idea in the slightest. But even in 2021, it made $408 million. Are you kidding me? Is this so cool? I'm sorry. The koala's name is Buster Moon? That's stupid. This is all stupid. Who's in this? Bobby Cannavale. That's insane. Why? Eric Andre is a yak. What? I'm sorry. The only like singer here, well, I guess Peter Serafinowicz is kind of a singer. He's known for stuff. And Bono. Ugh. Okay, sorry. Wow, I did not know that made that much money. $408 million in 2021. That's crazy. I'm sorry, that blew me away. I didn't know that was happening. That's kind of cool. Oh man, I just saw what's in development. Okay, Minions: The Rise of Gru. I talked about this movie on my channel. I love this movie. It's funny. This is like them riffing on the superhero stuff again, but doing it better. For some reason, the Despicable Me franchise is kind of moving closer towards doing superhero stuff now. With Despicable Me 4, they definitely like leaned into that. But a Gru prequel. He wants to be a supervillain. It's funny. The Minions like him. It's funny. It's a good movie. It is a good movie. There are some solid jokes in there. Michelle Yeoh is like, I'll teach you to be Kung Fu masters. Oh, you did it. Okay. That's good. And then you're starting to see, like, okay, they got Despicable Me and Sing, and they got Secret Life of Pets, and those are their franchises, and occasionally they'll, like, drop in and do, like, a Dr. Seuss thing. But then the unthinkable happens in 2023. Last year. Can you believe it? Illumination, the studio behind the Minions, gives us a Super Mario Bros. Movie. The first one in 30 years. And it's animated, and they got voice actors, kind of. People that are actors that do voices. They got them in it to do voices. And it is a completely mediocre movie. But again, this is something that Nintendo has been very hesitant on for a long time. They never really wanted to make movies on their properties, but the floodgates are now open, folks. We're going to get a lot more because this was a high-grossing film. You probably forgot it even came out last year because it got lost in the shuffle that was Barbenheimer. But no, there was a Super Mario Bros. Movie that was the third highest grossing film of the year, or the second. I think it's the second because Oppenheimer maybe made more domestically, but like worldwide it was behind this Super Mario Bros. Movie. A movie I talked about on this channel. A perfectly fine whatever movie that is truly nothing. There's nothing to it. There's nothing special about it. It exists and we have to live with that. And that's okay. And we're going to get a sequel to it because it made so much money and people like it. You just have to show the big mustached bomb king, whose name I don't know, from Super Mario Bros. 64, and you won over your audience. He just has to be in the background of one scene, and your audience is going to be okay with you because they just want to see characters from the game they played. And you know what? I'm kind of like that too. If Illumination made a Star Fox movie and I got to see all my Star Fox characters, I'd be the same way. But you're not doing anything for me by just having like, is that a boo in the background? Who cares? What's that? Yeah, it's a Mario thing. We're making a Mario movie. It's not special. Also, last year, you might have forgot about this. They released a movie called Migration. What if some ducks wanted to go on a vacation? No, let me rephrase that. What if some ducks wanted to go on a vacation? Well, they would try, and shenanigans would ensue because a dad's like overbearing or something, and the mom's trying to help him out, and the kids are kind of confused about their life. What if that all happened? It'd be a movie nobody talks about and is forgotten to time. But, you got to commend them for trying something new this late into their game. They don't always have to do that. They could have easily just pumped out like another movie that we're going to see like in a minute here is just sequels that they're working on. But they tried it. I didn't watch it. I also haven't seen Despicable Me 4 yet, like we talked about. And I guess we have a couple movies in development, like The Secret Life of Pets 3, which is going to shoot me in the head, and Sing 3, which is stupid and a bad idea, and something from Pharrell Williams, because he's worked on a lot of these too. He's done music for all the Despicable Me's. He loves that shit. Why? I don't know. Is he the one that made like a Lego movie about himself, or was that somebody else? I don't know. Don't do that. That's weird. What a weird thing to do. Unproduced films. All right, here's some unproduced films from them. Emily the Strange. From the Dark Horse. Oh, man. They're going to do a Dark Horse movie? Oh, man. That's cool. Flanimals. What is that? Oh, it's a Ricky Gervais thing. No thanks. Where's Waldo? That would go hard. A Where's Waldo movie would go hard. I'm sorry. We have to take a break right now. Who would you cast in a Where's Waldo movie to play Waldo? Because the thing is, you can't find him, but he has to be distinct enough where you're looking at him. Who would you cast? That is an interesting question to pose. I like it. Hugh Grant. Cryptozoology film that never got made. Curious George. We've had a million of those. An Addams Family thing. Whatever. Woody Woodpecker. Cat in the Hat. Clifford. They made a Clifford movie eventually. Whatever. Wow, these movies make a lot of money. Look at that. These do good. Holy crap. I'm sorry. I'm just seeing this. These do great. The worst one is Hop. Which, yeah, of course it is. Who's going to see Hop? And then it looks like the next one is The Lorax. Wow. You have 3 movies that hit $1 billion. Despicable Me 3, the first Minions film, and then the Super Mario Bros. Movie. That's crazy. That's kind of cool. I'm sorry. I think that's kind of cool. And look, they got good cinema score ratings too, all these mediocre movies. Sing 2 has an A+. Get shit on. What are you talking about? Sing 2 has an A+ cine score? What? What? That's crazy. Exhausting. This studio, I like them. I say that, and what I mean is I like the Minion franchise. That's it. But you know what? They made a Mario movie. How many other studios got to do that? Like 1. And they'll make another one. At the very least, they will make another one before anybody else gets a chance to make another one. So that's kind of cool. Yeah, I should have saw Despicable Me 4. I feel like that'd be more interesting to talk about. I've heard good things. It does reference the Fantastic Four a lot, and it is talking about the 80s in some fun ways. Should have watched it. Either way, the best movie that this company has produced, in my opinion, is Despicable Me 3. And then I guess it would be The Rise of Gru. Oh, that's sad, because I think Despicable Me 3 is a really good movie that I would say is a 8 out of 10, and then The Rise of Gru I'd say is a 7 out of 10, and then I guess it's The Lorax? I don't know. They're all kind of bad, but whatever. I like it either way. Hey, it's Illumination. They make some stuff for you to check out. There's always a movie of theirs in theaters. You know, we'll never have a year in our lives where there's not like a Minion billboard or cutout or standee in a cinema. It'll always be there. Some iteration of a Minion will be in your local theater. And I think that's really cool. So thank you all for listening to some Illumination Talk. Be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. As always, you can check me out on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. And of course, I will catch you in the next one. Have fun. Stay safe. Good luck. I was going to do a Minion joke, but nah, what's the point? We're done with them.